The artificial sky of Orion's Mercy shimmered with the illusion of starlight, casting a muted silver glow across the high diplomatic chamber. No windows. No wind. Just polished steel, muted lighting, and the quiet hum of machines too advanced to comprehend. Captain Elias Rowe leaned against the frame of the doorway, arms crossed, watching the Zalari ambassador as she finished her presentation. Saralyn Vex wasn't what he expected. She stood poised, her luminous turquoise skin and bioluminescent hair shimmering like the ocean before a storm. Tall, statuesque, calm, but beneath that poise was something else. A fire she tried to bury in reason and logic. Elias saw it in her eyes. Not defiance. Desperation. "And you're telling me," Elias said, voice slow and deliberate, "that you've discovered cross-species compatibility between a Zalari female and a human male?" He didn't blink. "That's a first." "It's not a theory," Saralyn replied, her tone measured. "It's already happened. A viable embryo has formed under sterile simulation. No deformities. No immune rejection. No genetic collapse." He stepped into the room. "Why bring this to me?" "Because," she said, walking over to a glass panel and pulling up a 3D hologram of spiraling DNA strands, "you're the only one cleared for human Zalari reproductive liaison protocols, and the only one who volunteered for this mission after reviewing the parameters." Elias stared at the hologram. Perfect helix, stable chromosomal pairing, one strand blue, one red. "Volunteered's a stretch," he muttered. "The Federation strong-armed me." Saralyn turned to him. "You lost a family once. You of all people understand what this means." That hit too close. Elias's jaw tightened. "I'm not a surrogate hope machine. I'm here to see if you're bluffing." "Then look again," she said, approaching him, barely a breath away. "I am dying. My entire race is. Every Zalari womb is sterile by design. A punishment for our ancestors' wars. But this embryo, it's something no Zalari has seen in generations. Potential." Her voice trembled slightly on the last word, and for the first time, her diplomatic shield cracked. He saw it, raw hope. Elias sighed and moved to the console, entering his clearance. "So what's the next step?" Saralyn handed him a sealed biokit. "We run an in vitro fusion using isolated gametes and genetic catalysts. Artificial fertilization under your supervision. Federation tech. No black market tampering. We do this clean or not at all. No intercourse." Elias smirked, half joking. Her eyes didn't flinch. "Not until viability is confirmed and pregnancy deemed safe." He raised a brow. "You've planned this. I've lived for this." He opened the kit. Inside were molecular clamps, a nanobot seeder, and a frozen gamete sample, hers. "What about your government?" Elias asked. "They outlawed hybridization. This'll paint a target on your back." "They won't know." "Not yet. We're within Federation jurisdiction, and diplomatic immunity protects us, for now." Elias hesitated. "And if it works? What happens then?" Saralyn's voice softened. "Then I stop being an ambassador, and start being a mother." That word pierced the silence. Mother. Something he hadn't heard in years, not since his wife's death in that failed medical transport mission. Not since the stillborn son he'd never gotten to name. "You're serious about this," he said. "I'm willing to risk everything for it," she replied. Elias nodded slowly. "Then let's do it. But I want oversight. My own team. We do this by the book." Agreed. They moved to the secure biochamber beneath the embassy, where sterilized machines hummed in anticipation. The transfer took 3 hours, prepping genetic material, calibrating nanofusion, and initializing simulation. The embryo formed faster than expected. Saralyn stood motionless as the screen displayed a flickering heartbeat. "I didn't believe it could work," Elias admitted. "I did," she whispered, hand resting against the glass. "I had to." The moment lingered. Something shifted in the air between them. Not romantic, not yet, but something deeper. A bond forged not through flirtation, but through shared loss and impossible hope. As they left the lab, Elias glanced at her. "You said your womb is sterile. How can you carry it?" Her steps slowed. That's the gamble. My body may reject it. Or it may adapt. Evolution can be cruel, or generous. Elias stopped walking. And you're still willing to try? Sarah faced him fully. Captain Rowe, for my people, for myself, for the possibility of a future, I'm not just willing. I'm ready. They stood in silence again, but this time the silence carried weight. He offered a hand. She took it. In that touch was the promise of everything to come: danger, defiance, heartbreak, and perhaps, life. Elias wasn't sure what he expected after the embryo took. Certainly not this. Sarah stood in the mirror of the medical suite, expression unreadable, one hand drifting over the slight rise in her abdomen. Her skin shimmered more vividly now, as though some inner light had awakened. Not glowing in a metaphorical sense, glowing in a very literal, low-spectral frequency. The medtechs had never seen anything like it. It's real, she murmured. It's changing me. Elias leaned against the doorway, watching her closely. You're adapting. Your DNA is rewriting itself around the hybrid tissue. That shouldn't be possible. It wasn't, she said, turning toward him. Until now. She walked past him, heading toward the observation console where the embryo's growth rate was being charted. Accelerated development, no instability. It was a miracle, and it terrified him. Elias crossed his arms. I ran the numbers 3 times. This child, he's not just healthy. He's perfect. No rejection. No mutations. And yet I feel like I'm being hunted by my own blood, she said, voice cold. He looked at her. What aren't you telling me? She hesitated. Then, Chancellor Keothrax sent a scout vessel 2 hours ago. Said it was for standard inspection protocol. That's a lie. Keothrax knows. Not about the pregnancy yet. But he suspects something. Maybe the transmission logs, maybe surveillance leaks, he's always watching. Elias's jaw clenched. If they find out what we've done, they'll sterilize me again, Sarah said. Or worse. They'll destroy the child before it becomes a symbol. Elias cursed under his breath. You need protection. You shouldn't be walking freely. She turned to him with quiet fire. I won't hide. This child is not a crime. No, but your people will see it that way. There was silence between them, charged and sharp. The air in the chamber felt heavier now. The walls, once sterile and quiet, seemed to press in on them. Sarah looked at him. You don't have to stay. Your contract was only to assist with implantation. You've fulfilled it. He stepped closer. You really think I'd walk away now? Why wouldn't you? Because I know what it's like to lose a child before you've even held them. The words hung in the air, raw and painful. Sarah's face softened. Your wife. She died during labor. Shuttle malfunction on a colony world. I was 6 hours away. I held my son for 10 minutes before he stopped breathing. Elias swallowed hard. That was 9 years ago. Sarah stepped forward. I'm sorry. He nodded. I never talk about it. Not with anyone. But this, what we're doing, it doesn't feel like duty anymore. It feels right. That admission cracked something between them. A wall of formality began to crumble. Later that night, they moved Sarah to a shielded room in the ship's core, hidden from exterior scans. Her body was reacting in unpredictable ways: energy surges, skin fluctuation, neurological hypersensitivity. She would glow during certain emotional spikes. The med team wanted to monitor her 24/7. Elias stayed with her, often sleeping in the chair beside her bed. They talked. Not about the pregnancy. About human books. Zelari songs. Languages. Loss. Hope. It was strange how naturally the intimacy grew. One evening, while the simulated night cycles passed, Sarah sat beside Elias on the medical bed, legs crossed, data pad in her lap. I never thought I'd feel so human, she said. You mean, emotionally volatile and prone to recklessness? Elias teased. She smirked. No. I mean full of longing. Full of contradictions. He leaned back, studying her. Contradictions make us who we are. Her hand brushed against his, fingers grazing. Then what does this make us? Elias didn't move. It makes us dangerous. Her eyes searched his. Then why does it feel like peace? The moment lingered but was shattered by the urgent beep of the alert console. Elias stood fast. Incoming Zalari signal. Unauthorized. Cerelin's breath hitched. Chaothrax. Elias pulled up the interface. A scout cruiser had breached orbit, running an active scan sweep. Not Federation legal. Not diplomatic protocol. It was a threat. He turned to Cerelin. We need to move now. She stood but stumbled, her knees buckling. Elias caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin burned hot under his hands, glowing brighter than before. Vitals spiking. Hormonal surge, he muttered. Your body's trying to reject the fetus. No, it's fighting to keep it, she gasped. He carried her to the emergency medbed and activated the cryosuspension net to stabilize her core systems. The AI administered balancing agents through her spine. Her breathing evened slowly, light fading from her skin. Cerelin reached up, clutching Elias's hand. Don't let them take him from me, she whispered, eyes fluttering. I won't, Elias said. I swear it. He stood there for hours while she slept, watching the flicker of the fetal monitor. One life. One chance. For the first time in years, he felt purpose again. The chamber was carved from obsidian alloy and echo. Light bled down from above in tight, cold columns. No color. No warmth. Only judgment. Cerelin stood at the center of the Zalari High Conclave's tribunal floor, her hands bound not by chains but by an auralock that shimmered pale blue against her wrists. A gesture, not for security, but for humiliation. Pregnant. Glowing. Silent. Above her, the 12 conclave justicars loomed in suspended grave thrones, their expressions etched from stone and law. At the highest seat, Chancellor Chaothrax watched her with eyes that burned beneath shadow. You stand accused, he began, voice metallic and sharp, of unauthorized genetic experimentation, violation of Article 17 of the Purity Doctrine, and the willful contamination of the Zalari lineage. Cerelin raised her head slowly. I stand here not as a criminal, but as proof. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Chaothrax's voice cut them down. You brought a human seed into your womb. You conspired to pollute what remains of our kind. You would rather birth a bastard hybrid than accept extinction with dignity. Cerelin's jaw tightened. Extinction is not dignity. It is surrender. Chaothrax leaned forward. And you believe you've created salvation? I am salvation, she said, voice clear. Inside me is the future your doctrine was too afraid to imagine. Gasps. One of the justicars covered their mouth. Another shook their head in disbelief. Cerelin let her hand drift over her belly. This child is alive. Whole. Unbroken. What your laboratories failed to create in 2 centuries happened in one act of courage. Chaothrax gestured, and a holoscreen flickered on. Images of Elias appeared entering the embassy, accessing the genetic lab, assisting with the fertilization. Captain Elias Rowe, the Chancellor announced. A known Federation diplomat. A human. A foreign element. He was not your assistant. He was your co-conspirator. Cerelin said nothing. You brought this impurity into our most sacred place. Still silence. Chaothrax's voice dropped to a snarl. Where is the human now? She raised her eyes and spoke for the first time without restraint. Out of your reach. The conclave erupted in outrage. Aboard the Federation cruiser Solzember, Elias stood before a glowing interface, watching the broadcast in real time. The transmission had been leaked, possibly on purpose. He didn't care. The galaxy was watching now. Beside him, Admiral Juno's voice echoed through the comms. You go in there, you break diplomatic law. I'm not watching her get executed, Elias said. Not for this. She's not your responsibility. She's family now. A long pause. Then make it count, Juno said, and the channel closed. Elias stepped forward and keyed in the override code. The conclave feed glitched and then, in full view of millions watching across systems, his face appeared on the conclave's main tribunal screen. Chaothrax froze mid-sentence. Apologies for the intrusion, Elias said calmly, but since I'm being named as co-conspirator, I thought I'd make it official. He stared straight at the Chancellor. My name is Elias Rowe. And yes, I helped Saralyn conceive that child. Not because I wanted to insult your doctrine, but because I believed her species deserved more than a tombstone. Keothrax's hand slammed down. Shut it down. The text scrambled, but Elias had already locked the signal. Federation firewalls held. I lost a child once, Elias continued. And it nearly broke me. But Saralyn gave me something I didn't know I still had a reason to hope. That child isn't a weapon. He's not an abomination. He's proof that life finds a way. He stepped closer to the lens. You call it impurity. I call it evolution. In the tribunal, Justicars looked at one another. Some uncertain. Some moved. Keothrax bared his teeth. You will not dictate Zelari law, human. No, Elias said, but you will answer to your people. And now, they know the truth. The screen went black. Back on the tribunal floor, Saralyn felt the shift. The conclave no longer looked like a united force. Whispers cracked the facade. Keothrax stood, his authority wounded. I move for immediate termination, he snapped. Before this corruption spreads. A junior Justicar rose. The people have seen her. And the child. We can't hide it now. Keothrax turned toward Saralyn. If the law won't act, I will. He raised his hand, and a shimmering pulse of energy gathered at his palm. But before he could strike, the ceiling detonated in a cascade of light and sound. Smoke. Shouts. Shields up. From the fracture in the dome, Elias dropped in, suit flaring with atmospheric reentry sparks. Behind him, a rebel cell of exiled Zelari surged downward, armed with tech and purpose. Saralyn, Elias shouted. She ran. He caught her mid-stride, lifting her as blasts echoed around them. The rebels held the conclave at bay long enough for Elias to activate his emergency evac pad. With a roar of displaced matter, the two vanished in a burst of blue light. They reappeared aboard Sol's Ember's infirmary deck. Saralyn collapsed into Elias's arms, panting, glowing hot with stress and hormonal instability. Medics rushed in, scanners lighting up. She's burning out, one said. The fetus is causing systemic override. She's not rejecting him, Elias growled. She's overcompensating, trying to keep him safe. Saralyn reached up, clutching Elias's collar. He kicked, she whispered. His eyes went wide. He kicked, Elias. Her voice was weak, but smiling. Elias bent down and kissed her forehead, voice cracking. Then we're going to make it. No matter what comes next. A storm raged in orbit. The binary suns of Iron 4 cast pulsing rays through the magnetic field as the Federation refugee station drifted half-blind in the charged chaos. Shields flickered. Communications jammed. Most of the station's crew had locked themselves in safe zones. But down on the medical deck, one room glowed with flickering backup lights and the sound of laboured breathing. Saralyn screamed. Elias held her hand tight as another wave of convulsions racked her body. Sweat glistened on her temples. Her skin flared in pulses, glowing brighter with each contraction, white, then electric blue, then dimming again. She's entering final dilation, the medic shouted, gripping the edge of the table as the storm shook the room again. Saralyn groaned, her voice strained and hollow. No power, no regulation fields, the pain. You're doing this, Elias whispered, leaning closer. You're almost there. Just a little longer. She shook her head, eyes wild. My bones aren't made for this. My body wasn't built for birth. Elias touched her cheek, voice firm. Neither was mine. But he's still here because you willed him into existence. You've already done the impossible. A flicker of something passed her face, pain, fear, then something purer. Trust. She nodded. Then help me finish it. The next hour passed in a haze of instinct and endurance. With the station's systems fried from the solar storm, Elias and two Zelari exile medics worked manually, old methods, no automation. Sweat, blood, pulse. A primal scene beneath the flicker of a dying light. And then, silence. A moment stretched. Tense. Still. until the cry rang out. Not weak. Not confused. A deep, strong, piercing wail. Sarah collapsed back, eyes glazed with exhaustion. Elias stood, trembling, holding the newborn. The child was small, blue-tinged skin like his mother, but human fingers. Soft downy hair the color of starfire. And his eyes, not Zalari slits, nor human ovals. But something new. Something alive with light. Sarah looked up, barely breathing. Is he? His perfect, Elias whispered. He placed the child on her chest, and she wept. Not the stoic warrior diplomat. Not the exiled symbol. Just a mother who never believed she'd feel a heartbeat against her own. They stayed like that for a long time. The peace didn't last. The storm had hidden them, but only for a while. 3 hours later, warning sirens wailed through the station. Vessel inbound, came the call. Zalari tactical dreadnought. Unflagged, no communication. It's him. It's Keothrax. Elias ran to the comms deck, gripping the edge of the console. What's our response? The officer hesitated. We don't have one. We're not armed. This station is a neutral refuge, not a warship. He stared at the ship on screen, a black fang piercing the void. They're coming for the child, he muttered. He turned to the commander. Broadcast the birth. Now. Uncensored. Public feeds. Are you insane? The officer barked. Elias's jaw set. They're going to kill us. But if the galaxy sees the child, Keothrax can't. The officer hesitated, then nodded. Moments later, the holofeeds went live. Across systems, the stream spread, a shaky image of Sarah cradling her newborn, his small fingers wrapped around hers. A miracle in motion. Across the station, Keothrax's dreadnought halted. No weapons fired. No boarders deployed. Instead, a voice, cold and brittle, cut through the static. This is not the end. But perhaps it is your beginning. And then the ship vanished in warp. In the days that followed, the story exploded. Across thousands of colonies and races, messages poured in outrage from Zalari hardliners, or from others. Scientists demanded access. Artists painted murals. Priests wept at the sight. The child was given a name. Cairo. Starborn. Sarah named him. Elias registered him. And slowly, legislation began to form. The Federation passed emergency protection clauses for interspecies hybrids. The Zalari conclave splintered under pressure. Keothrax vanished, his power broken. On the garden balcony of their new safe haven, Sarah sat in silence, Cairo sleeping against her chest, his tiny breath warming the fabric of her robe. Plants from earth and Zalari soil grew side by side in pots around her. Life was learning to share space. Elias stepped out with 2 cups, handing her one. She took it, smiling faintly. I still feel him kicking sometimes. Phantom echoes. He leaned on the railing beside her. You think you'll ever have another? She looked down at Cairo, thoughtful. I don't know. But one was enough to change everything. Elias watched the horizon, suns dipping low into the purple sky. He's not like us. He's something new. He'll be both, Sarah said. And neither. And more. Cairo stirred, blinking his strange eyes lit with curiosity even now. Elias reached down, brushed a finger across his cheek. He has your fire, he said. Sarah chuckled softly. And your stubborn heart. They stood together in quiet, a strange calm settling between them. Then Sarah whispered, almost to herself, they condemned me to silence. You gave me a voice. They told me I was empty, and now I'm full. Elias nodded, voice low. He'll build a new world. Because we dared to love.